7:04. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Hi, everyone. We'll take a quick roll call to see who's here. So I see Elizabeth and Elizabeth, well, I'm calling on you. Have you had an opportunity to swear in yet?
I have not yet.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to be clear, in the event of any votes or anything like that, I just wanted to make sure. Okay. No worries. Myself, Jeremy, Sherry, Nicole, Teresa, Benny, Colleen, Jen, Maureen, and Faith. All right. Okay. It looks like we have no members of the public, so we can move on to the next. So we have a lot of meeting minutes to approve. I think first we'll start with the general meeting from last month, January 19th. Has everyone had an opportunity to look those over, and does anyone have any edits to those? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the January minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Great. All right, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Yep. Okay, so I'll just wait for Kim. She's joining us. Hi, Kim. I was just about to take the roll call for approval of the January 19th meeting minutes. Do you have any edits or anything like that that you wanted to make to them? All right, she might be still getting settled. Okay, so Jeremy?
I vote yes.
Okay, Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Benny?
Yes.
All right, Jen?
Yes.
Faith, were you, I'm so sorry. You were at last month's meeting? Yes. What is your vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Kim?
I'm sorry, I just logged on. I missed what we were voting
Oh,
on.
no, that's okay. That's all right. So we're voting to approve the January 19th general meeting minutes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that.
Maria, you put yourself on mute.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't know how I hit that. Sorry. So for the subcommittees, for the meeting minutes, for the Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King subcommittee, I just want to make sure I have all the members correct. It was Teresa, Faith, Nicole, and Jeremy. Is that everyone? Okay. So, oh, and Benny, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So sorry.
Benny was only our fearless leader.
Right, exactly. She was the chair. I'm so sorry, Benny.
Don't have to apologize. It's fine.
Okay, so starting first with the November 5th subcommittee meeting minutes. Teresa.
Yes.
Faith.
Can I interrupt for one quick second, which is I asked Sherry Dalton if you're allowed to approve multiple minutes with one motion, and she said yes.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
It would be a consent agenda to
Right,
approve.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so therefore, thank you for that well appreciated interruption. These are for the meeting minutes for November 5th, November 30th, December 15th, December 30th, all of 2020, and then January 13th of 2021.
So I move that we approve all of the Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King subcommittee minutes as presented.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's a mouthful. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. So going back, Teresa.
Yes.
Faith.
Yes.
All right. Nicole.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
And Benny.
Yes.
All right. All right, so those are approved en masse. Thank you. All right, so going next to the communication subcommittee, that is Jen, Sherry, and Kim. Is that correct? Okay, so these are the meeting minutes for January 4th, January 14th, and February 1st, all of 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for all of these meetings?
I motion that we approve the minutes to all of these meetings.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
and so Sherry?
Yes.
Okay, Jen
Yes.
and Kim.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And then finally, for the International Women's Day Subcommittee, it's Teresa, Nicole, myself. Am I forgetting anyone?
Kimberly.
Kimberly. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
All good.
All right. And do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 2nd meeting? All right, Nicole.
Motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second,
All right. So Teresa,
yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
myself, yes, and Kim.
Yes.
All right. All right. So those are approved. Great. Thank you. All right. Moving on to number 4, I apologize again. I said this in my email. I apologize again. I had written a draft agenda before I got the template from Sherry Dalton and just put that in as a placeholder because I didn't know exactly how to refer to it. And then I never went back and fixed it. So that the question marks, it's new language and policies and procedures around the agenda, meeting, and minutes process that Jen had sent. So I sent that all out to you in your packets. I wanted to ask first, are there any edits that anybody wanted to make to that process? And thank you, Jen. That was it was a very detailed write-up of how to schedule meetings, how to submit minutes, how to submit an agenda in terms of the timeline and timing of that. So thank you for writing that up. And does anyone have any edits or any questions about it?
I have one question. Since the only people that can approve the minutes of a subcommittee meeting are the people that were at the meeting, why are we required to bring it before this meeting when we have general business to conduct?
I think part of the reason, I can double check with Sherry Dalton, but I think part of the reason is that for a lot of these events, these aren't ongoing subcommittees. So, for International Women's Day, we'll meet 3 times or however many times, and then the event happens and then we don't meet again in order to approve the minutes. So I think it's easier to just bring them back to the main meeting where all of the subcommittee members will be present and approve them then. I don't know if there's additional reasons beyond that. But yeah, that's my understanding.
It's just that in our subcommittee, we distributed the minutes among ourselves for corrections and additions, and then we all agreed that they were good to go.
Right.
So we, in a sense, voted, right after that instead of waiting.
Yeah.
So it means there's a delay in posting publicly of these minutes by having to wait.
Right. Although there's also a delay publicly posting our general meeting minutes because we don't approve those until the following month, and that's when they get posted. So, oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
I think part of it too is that by bringing them back to the full commission, we get a chance to see them. So if you guys only share them amongst yourselves and then approve them, I don't get a chance to see them unless I go to the website. This way, at least all commissioners get to see them, even though we don't vote on them, and we can actually ask questions and request changes that you guys all agree on. That's the way I understand it, so that it avoids the sort of secrecy or the subcommittee making sort of the whole decisions. So instead of, you guys do all the legwork too, but so
Yeah.
that's the way I understand it. So
Yeah, that's
Colleen
really
maybe can join in, or Maureen, because you guys definitely do a much more formal process on the school committee and the town council for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
what you said, Jeremy, that it allows the committee or commission members to be privy to the conversation, the general conversation of that subcommittee. So I know that when I read the minutes of our subcommittees prior to our large committee meeting, sometimes that's the only way that I'm informed of the discussion they had. And then we actually vote on them as a full committee. Not sure if that's, I assume that was the way it was supposed to go, but you all are voting on them in your subcommittees in front of the full committee. So, but I agree. I think that it's maybe sometimes the only way for the full commission or committee to understand workings of each subcommittee. And then if you had questions or, the events coming up and you wanted to comment on that or ask questions, that enables you to do so.
And on
Thank
that,
you.
Colleen, what Sherry Dalton had conveyed to me, which was what I put in the write-up, it was that the people who are present at the meetings, and I think that goes for the full meeting, right? So we don't have folks who weren't at last month's meeting vote on to approve the minutes because they weren't there. So that's what she had told us, was that the people who are present are the ones who
Yeah, I read that in the
verify that they're accurate, right?
Right. Because how would you know if you weren't there? That's interesting. I'd like to actually bring that point up to my committee. So thank you.
All right.
So I think my only question, so if nobody has any changes to what I had written up, my biggest question was more, does this actually go into our official policies and procedures main document and we vote that in, or is it just sort of a separate resource that we refer to maybe and say, here it is, but it sort of lives on its own? So that was my question, is sort of what happens to this now that it's written up?
Mhm.
I think there's value in having it in the document that everyone receives. Not having more than one policies, having one policies and procedures manual. And these are addendums on specific procedures that, and of course with policies and procedures, they're different than bylaws in that they can be changed quite easily and revised, brought before, voted and revised. So I think it should go into the general body of information that we all can refer to. It's our manual for how we perform our duties.
Right. Okay, so if nobody has, excuse me, if nobody has any edits or further questions, is there a motion to add these to the policies and procedures?
So I think we have to make a motion to accept them as written, and then, so I make a motion to accept these policies and procedures as written and add them into our, overall policies and procedures.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
Second, and giant kudos to Jen for putting this together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen. All right. So let's see. So Jeremy,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
and Kim.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I ask, Maria,
Mhm.
are you the one who then adds them into the, whose job is it for our action items to actually put
Right.
them into the final?
I'll do
form?
that.
Okay.
Yep, I can do that. Thank you.
And then can we each receive a PDF of the updated and revised
Yes.
for our own reference? Thank you.
Yep. All right. Next item, the active bystander training feedback. So I saw prior to both trainings, they had sent me the roster of the attendance for both, and it looks like a lot of you were able to make it. If you weren't, that's totally fine. So I just was curious, if people had feedback or if it's something that you'd like to see again, if you had heard from other people on the training, what their thoughts were.
I thought it was excellent, and I just wish we could have a follow-up, a second, get into even more depth than we did, because we just sort of scraped the surface. It was really, I thought, well done, and in particular, and I'm trying to remember which of the two women it was, but one of them did a superb job of summarizing salient points after people commented.
Great. Yeah, I did. The person who was in charge of organizing the whole event said she did get some feedback, or she got responses from a few people that attended the training who said the same thing, that they wanted. There is a second level of the training where it does go further in depth, and they had a few people reach out to them to say that they would like to do that. So they're following up with them about that. So if any of you would like that kind of second level training, I can either reach it, if you want to let me know, I can convey the message, or if you want to reach out to them directly. Other comments, Jeremy?
Yeah, so Maria, I heard you present to the school committee the other night, and when you mentioned the active bystander training and that both slots filled up completely, I was impressed, because I have to admit that last month when we had all those openings, I was leery that they wouldn't get filled. So I'm glad to see that it was well attended, both sessions. So good job.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was really good.
I was encouraged too, because I think we were only at half attendance until probably 3 or 4 days before the event. So, and then all of a sudden there was a big jump. So for the second one. Yeah. Teresa, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure what to expect, really. And I thought it was great. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else?
I thought it was helpful. I liked that they were able to send us that sort of job aid afterwards with some of the definitions and things, because that was something I gave them feedback that it was a little difficult for me to keep track of, because they would give like 6 definitions or something, and then we'd go into breakout rooms and like, wait, what was the one I was assigned to? So I said that would have been helpful to have that sort of reference guide as we were in the breakout rooms to refer back to. That was my only real criticism, and I agree it would have been nice to go into more depth. But I thought for a first course, it was really relevant.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Along those lines, the worksheet, or not really a worksheet, but the sheet that they had given to us afterwards, was that something that, do you think that's something that we should share on our homepage? Or do you think it's just something that we hold on to as participants?
My guess, and this is coming from somebody who does a lot of training in my day job, is that like reference guides that go along with training should be for people who went to the training and not.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I don't think there's anything. If they told us we could share it, then we could. I just feel like some of it, you need the extra context that you got
Right.
in the class to really understand what it's telling you.
Yep.
I agree with Jen that you really do need the context of the class for that information to be relevant, because they provided way beyond what even I had thought of was bystanding.
All right, thank you.
Elizabeth,
I
were you
don't
going to
feel
say
like I
something?
got these follow-up materials. How did you get them? They emailed them to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that most often in my experience, when people create materials for a training, they don't intend them to be shared broadly.
Okay. Yeah. Benny, I can forward it to you if you want. Yeah. All right. Okay. And Valerie Overton, is there anything that you wanted to say about the active bystander training?
Hi, yeah, I just joined late, so I didn't hear most of your conversation. but so I can't really comment based on what you have said already. um, but I thought you guys were a great group and we really enjoyed it. So I can say that much.
Thank you. And
If
for
you have
those
any
of you
questions
that-
for me?
Okay, just to fill in the people who weren't able to attend the trainings, Valerie was one of the facilitators of the active bystander training. So I saw her name come up and I was like, the timing is perfect. So yeah, everyone, just to fill you in, Valerie, there was some really positive feedback. Everyone was encouraged that we had a good number for both sessions. Similar to what I think Beryl, your colleague, had emailed me, there were several people who really are interested in going deeper and doing a second training on this. And I think the only comment was that it would have been helpful to have the worksheet alongside the training just to follow along. But otherwise, it really was a very, very well received program.
Great, great. I'm so glad. Yes, yeah. The question of the handout is always interesting because when we do, or when we used to do these trainings in person, we would give the handouts to people, have them on their chairs so that as they arrived, they would have the handouts and could follow along. And so in person, we found that that was actually a useful way to go. Virtually, we've kind of had this debate about it because, when you're in person, you have an easier way of connecting with eye contact to kind of engage people with the group rather than have people staring down at their papers reading. Whereas virtually, it's harder to do that. And so we send the handout afterwards, just to make sure that people are staying engaged rather than reading. But it's helpful to hear the feedback because that is certainly something that we go back and forth about.
Yeah.
Valerie, we did have one thing we discussed about that handout, and our general feeling was that this handout was intended for the people who actually went to the training, not for posting on our, let's say, on our website. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, yes, it's meant for people who have taken the training.
Does anyone have any other questions for Valerie, or Valerie, do you have any other questions for us?
On my end, I'm just happy to hear any feedback, whether it's positive, negative, things we can do better, lessons learned, anything. We always like to improve, so we're happy to have the feedback.
I have a question about Maria mentioned that there's this kind of like second level that's more in depth. What does that training consist of?
So at one point we had an advanced, when we were doing it in person, we had an advanced tab training. And right now what we're doing in the virtual format is talking about a second level tab that would be have more kind of breakout room activities and more kind of practice, so that we would delve more in depth into kind of building our personal toolkits of strategies and then practicing those strategies. So for example, in the regular tab, we kind of go through, as you saw, kind of the various kind of concepts that we think about in terms of the language of active bystandership, kind of the inhibitors, kind of the strategies for overcoming those inhibitors. And we talk, the breakout groups kind of report back, and then we kind of analyze the strategies that we've come up with. And we talk in the regular community tab session about the fact that people are different, right? So different strategies are going to work for different people in different circumstances. And so when you have a second level tab with more breakout activities, you have a greater opportunity to explore those strategies and kind of build what you would consider your personal toolkit, and then practice those.
One thing I'll say is that I left the training like really hungry for more conversation about, like, the thing that specifically was like really sparking in my brain was, for me as a white person, saviorism is tied up in active bystandership in a way that seems like very complicated to untangle. So I'll say that that's one thing that I like really was craving out of that training, or would crave perhaps out of a second level training, to pick apart for whatever our areas of privilege are, if it's able-bodied saviorism, if it's whatever, you know, like, how do you intervene without perpetrating those harmful dynamics as well? Or how do you at least be aware, you know, kind of be thinking about that as part of your...
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's a really important topic, and one that we talk about a lot as trainers. And so that is kind of one of the discussion points that we would like to explore more in a second level training, because in a way it becomes wrapped up in that dilemma of kind of the inhibitors in terms of why we don't intervene because we're afraid of doing the wrong thing, versus the desire to provide help that is positive and constructive and authentic. And so that absolutely is a dilemma that, we hear about all the time, and is definitely something that we would talk more about in a second level training.
Maria, can I just add, I did not go to the training, but I heard that it was full. People on Wednesday, I was in a meeting and people were trying to sign on and weren't able to. And I just want this group to appreciate that you did that. And I completely hear people wanting 2.0, but I want the HRC not to forget that there is an appetite for doing it again, the 1.0. And I don't want you guys, like, that's a big deal for in this time of a pandemic, we're all zoomed out, and like Counselor Julie Smith Galvin went to sign up on Wednesday and texted, and she said it's full. And we actually had a conversation about it. Could there be a wait list of some sort in the future? So if somebody doesn't show, and I don't know what it looked like, but that you could, give that seat to someone else. So I as you guys think about next year or future things, just 2.0 sounds great, but there is an appetite in Wakefield to do another 1.0.
Great.
Yeah, I would support doing that, because then I feel like you build a like a group of people maybe who, like, you build more people who would be interested in a 2.0. Like if we were able to do more sessions, then maybe there'd be more, like a whatever. And yeah. I was one of those people. I second having a wait list, because I wasn't able to go to the Wednesday one, even though I signed up, because I had a work crisis that unfolded. And so I bet if there was a wait list, that would have been great.
All right. Definitely good things to keep in mind. One thing that is something to consider is, so the trainings are, I believe they're $400 per training. So definitely not something that I'm opposed to looking into further, but we might want to consider partnering with other organizations, just so, we were fortunate this year because we got the $1,000 donation. So we weren't depleting almost all of our $1,000 line item budget. Excuse me. We weren't depleting almost all of it with these two trainings. So we should think about other groups that we might be able to partner with, or I don't know if there's a grant for something like this, to do ongoing trainings that maybe we could split the cost with another group or organization.
Maria, I know we offered it for free and we covered the cost. Would there
Right.
be something we could even consider,
Right.
like a 10, instead of a $20 per person or something like that, and say we'll cover half the cost and maybe charge a smaller fee for people to go. So just something to consider.
Yep, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I also,
I don't think a $20 fee would be a barrier for most people for something of that much value.
I also think that the town council or the town could find money because it was so successful. And I'm gonna do my gentle nudge. If somebody did a write-up about it and wrote about how successful it was, and maybe someone who Jeremy spoke how like somebody who did it for the first time, I think if we kind of get that out of this was successful, then it would be easier to get the money next time. But I that should not be a barrier. Just like I don't think asking people to donate, but I never want that to be a reason people don't participate in something. And we can find the money if we just have to show how successful it was.
Right. All right.
Yeah, and we often find that people who sponsor active bystander trainings do partner with various municipal departments and or social justice organizations or faith communities are sometimes willing to help with funding as well. And the other thing that we see is kind of people offering it on a sliding scale so that people can pay or donate kind of whatever they feel able to, as long as you feel like you have enough people who can pay enough or you have some partial funding to kind of make up the difference. But those are some strategies that we see people using.
Yeah. And given the fact that we had people for these sessions that weren't able to get in, what are people's thoughts in terms of, and Valerie, please feel free to jump in terms of what you've seen with other communities that you've worked with. Do we want to wait a full year before we have another training? Do we want to do it sooner? What do people think about that? Jeremy, go ahead.
So I would try to do it sooner, just, given that there's like people that would have been on a waiting list, like Maureen said, that there are people. And I think with the COVID environment and people being shut in, you're going to get more people that are going to say, oh, this is a great time for me to jump on board with something like this. And again, I would just come back and say, I love that the conversation isn't about, oh man, how did we get more people to do this next time? It's, man, this was so good that we want to do a 2.0 and, additional 1.0. So again, kudos to this,
Right.
Yeah, so I would just add in the communities that I have worked with, sometimes what people do is to write a press release to local newspapers and talk about how successful it was, what it was, and the fact that it was successful, the fact that there were people who were unable to participate because they filled, and that kind of generates kind of greater community interest and keeps your momentum going. Mm-hmm. And then perhaps a couple months after that to plan it and let people know that you're scheduling another one, just so that, again, you keep the momentum and you build the interest so that when you do host one, that it's in people's minds.
Right.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Are there others, other facilitators besides yourself and Beryl?
Oh, yes. We have lots of facilitators. Yes, I am one of many. So I usually no matter when you say that you would like to have one, we can find, a couple of trainers who are available.
Do we have any volunteers to write up a press release? And if not, then I'm happy to do it.
I usually volunteer, but I know I'm not going to be able to.
I can do it. I'll do it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, right. I can do it. I just need to talk to whoever went. So you want to maybe connect us in an email and I'll pull together like a list of questions and then I can draft it up pretty easily.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, Kim.
You got it.
Okay. So yeah, so Kim can write up the press release between now and next month's meeting, and then maybe we can talk about at next month's meeting if we want to do an additional kind of first level training, or if we want to, I think probably a third of the first level, and then from there, then we'll figure out timing in terms of if we want to do the second level training. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I just ask, Kim, are you looking for quotes from the people who attended? And would we want that to just be us or other people who attended within the public who aren't on the HRC? Because I don't know if we can, well, I don't know if we would want to email the, like I have a couple friends who I know attended, so I could like ask them if they wouldn't mind, but I don't know if we have, if that would be like public information or to send to Kimberly.
I mean, if you have friends that did it that are willing to give quotes, it would be great to have a quote from HRC and, you know, somebody who just kind of went on their own being interested in it. It would show kind of, you know, that it was, if they're open to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Valerie. It was nice to hear from you.
Sure. Yeah, I just thought I would pop in just for this agenda item in case I could answer any questions.
Great.
And sorry I was late.
Oh, that's okay. No, your timing was perfect. Yep.
All right. Well, if you have any other questions, certainly feel free to touch base anytime.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. Great. Okay. So moving on to the International Women's Day update, does Teresa, do you want to give, are you comfortable? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can
Okay.
just give a quick update. So we had one meeting because of my failure to follow all the steps to get us together last week.
I feel your pain.
Oh my God, it was awful. I felt so awful, but
We'll get the hang of it. Don't worry.
we're meeting tomorrow.
I messed up too.
So tomorrow will be our second meeting and we'll be able to kind of bring it together. But I felt like we are moving forward. I actually heard back from the Chamber of Commerce. So I think it was good that I think Cherry already had connected with them. They actually got back to me and they worked on a list of the female business owners because that's who we want to kind of focus on for this International Women's Day, especially during this COVID. And we feel like it'll be good to give some attention to the business. And I've actually already heard back from a number of people. They're interested. So I'm going to update a shared document and just kind of get those names out there. But it seems like there's a lot of interest. So I think it'll be good. And tomorrow, if we can just kind of organize and see where we're going with the next steps, I think it'll be good. But I'm excited. So
What is the anticipated date?
that I think we're still trying to figure out whether we're going to do like a 1-day thing or if we want to do like maybe like every week. I think that's kind of what we'll probably have more information in the next meeting, but yeah.
Did we find out that we can do a Google Doc? I know that was on the agenda last time. And then I know we were talking about using it for this. Did we find that out? Because I got some feedback too. And people are wicked excited about it. And then telling me about other business owners they know in town.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to put that somewhere out of my head, you know?
Yeah, I think it's okay if we're adding, if we're just adding our own feedback from the different businesses that we're speaking with, add it to the Google Doc. But in terms of like deliberating about what's going into the doc, I think that's where we would run afoul of open meeting laws. So
yeah, I'll share I updated some stuff to it, so I'll share it with the subcommittee so then we can just plug in stuff in there and we can just discuss tomorrow.
Okay,
perfect.
Cool. Thank you.
Good. Great. Thanks, Teresa.
No problem.
Okay. So Faith, do you have any updates from the Black Student Union? Any initiatives you guys are working on that we can support you with?
How was your fundraiser?
Oh, yeah. She may have stepped away. All right. We'll come back to her. Yana's not here, so no updates from the Youth Council. Nicole and I have been working on the Black History Month book readings. We got a great list from Casey at the library, and we are in the process of reserving those books. I know we're behind. It's just collectively between the three of us, it's just been a crazy month, but we'll video the readings. We have Casey kind of helped us out with in terms of copyrights and figuring that out. One question that I did want to ask for Indigenous Peoples Day, when you went about selecting, did you just ask for volunteers for people to read, or how did you go about doing that, Benny?
We asked people specifically, like Marion and I kind of thought about what would be good, and then specifically contacted Faith and Yana.
Okay.
See if they'd be interested.
Okay. All right. So Nicole, maybe you and I can connect and figure out who we want to reach out to for the readings, and we'll start getting people's recordings as soon as we can. So yeah, I take ownership for that. But we're getting there. Okay. So
is there any like communication support you need for that? Like, so if you get, I don't know how many recordings you're thinking of, 3 recordings or 4 recordings. Do we need to put up like a flyer, or like stay tuned for some book readings, or, just thinking about the sort of communications that go along with this initiative, and how do we want to kind of pump it up and like get people excited for the next one, or like how are they going to be spaced out, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, our original intention was to have this going from the beginning of the month and do like 2 readings a week, like at the beginning, like Mondays and Fridays. Obviously that everything's gotten truncated because now we're working with only 2 more weeks of February. And so I think, I don't know, Nicole, what do you think?
So yeah, I think that would be good, but I think Maria, you and I need to decide like what are the days that we're going to do it now. I have all the books reserved. I'm still pick them up tomorrow, and I can try to quickly go through like the bigger books and highlighting, and then we can, yeah. But that would be nice to have like stay tuned, like the book readings are coming these days of the week or something. So.
Yeah, so we'll connect with you, Jen, in terms of posts on Facebook and the webpage. All right.
Yeah, because even if we have a plan, we could make like a flyer image or something like that we could even post. Even if we're not ready with the videos yet, we could do some sort of coming soon kind of post or something.
All right.
And I just want to, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader today, but Benny, you started a great idea. So I am doing my own book reading to celebrate Black History Month. I'm stealing your ideas, but I looked online. And so I'm saying this because I don't want you to do the same book, which I don't think it will, but I'm doing Kamala and Maya's Big Idea by Mina Harris. So I'm guessing it's not on your list, but yeah, and it was so easy to find out if I had permission, and I have permission. They like blanket permission to everyone, but I think it's great. And so super excited for Benny to figure out how we could do that.
I am, just to be clear, not involved in this one, the Black History Month one, but I'm excited for future months. And I'm excited for Nicole and Maria's Black History Month readings.
All right, great. Thank you for those updates. Okay, so yeah, the high school logo discussion. I know that this has been a very fraught topic over the past several weeks, and I know that there are strong emotions on both sides. I know that, and I just want to be cognizant of that and respectful of people's opinions. So I wanted to, given this kind of the structure of this conversation a lot of thought, and I think the best place to start, and I had asked Colleen ahead of time if she could give me an update as to where things stand in terms of the process, because this is now gone beyond the school committee and it's now become a community conversation. So in terms of getting community feedback, Colleen, could you just give us an update as to where things stand with that?
Yep, thank you, Maria. So on Tuesday, at our meeting, our regular school committee meeting, we approved a plan for process, and that looked like a community forum, which is scheduled for February 25th at 7:30, hosted by WCAT. The logistics of that, actually, yesterday was awful. Today was a better day for logistics. So I got a lot accomplished today, and kind of, a lot of obstacles were overcome. We don't all agree on process, which is unfortunate, but part of it. So the community forum would be 225. We've communicated that out to at least through School Messenger. I'm now trying to work with communicating that message out through the town's database, and hoping that we can do that as well so we can reach as many people. And then we are also trying to include a panel discussion, which is really, we've been advised by a couple conversations that a couple of us have had, to make sure that we understand that our job as school committee members is to educate our committee members and our administrators. It is not our job to educate the public so much, because that's difficult. But in educating ourselves, we hope that we educate the public. But we have to sort of remain focused, right? And when we do a panel, we have to keep it focused and structured. So the panel discussion is going to be public, but it is going to be closed from, sort of a forum style for their own safety and protection, because panelists have been involved in very unsafe situations when it's sort of opened up to the community. So we're keeping that separate, and we're still working out the details of that. That may happen before our 3/9 meeting, but we're also faced with budget, all the regular agenda items that we're being a bit distracted by right now, or very distracted by right now, and we need to figure that out as well. So I just got confirmation today that the chair of our school committee will also is going to allow our community forum to be moderated, and that is going to be moderated by our town moderator. And we're going to set ground rules for that. We're going to have a sort of close the door by 7:40, which we really need to publicize that information, because it's important that you get there. We organize the participants, and then we're going to need to shut the door, so to speak. And we're setting up the ground rules for that. So there's going to be another communication put forth with all of the logistic information. So we're almost to the end of that. WCAT is amazing, of course, as always, and supporting sort of all the details there. I just had I keep turning my pages, like a very old-fashioned note taker, so just scribbles everywhere. So what happened in the meantime from our Tuesday meeting to the time, so I'm the chair of the Policy and Communications Subcommittee meeting, and we've sort of been charged with organizing and discussing this conversation outside of our regular school committee meetings. So what happened between Tuesday and our meeting on Friday morning was that a petition was filed. A petition can be filed started by one community member, one citizen, and then signed by 8, which allows it to go to be a referenda on the ballot on our election, which is 4/27. Marian, you can chime in anytime here, but then the town council they meet on Monday, and they will approve that referenda go on the ballot on 4/27. I spoke with Anne a couple hours ago, Anne Santos, and she just kind of want to give me a little bit of heads up that most times this is procedure that they are approved. We already kind of had that feeling when we met on Friday. So our subcommittee agreed that we were going to follow our process. And sort of that would exist the way it would exist. And that's okay. But we're gonna follow the process. Now, we don't all agree. So, Tuesday night school committee meeting, which is coming this Tuesday, you may see another motion to approve an amended process to the process that I'm describing tonight. So that's, that can happen because we don't all agree that we should then wait for 427 to happen and then make our vote. Our process was to make our vote on 3-9 after we held the community forum, after we held the panel discussion. Whether we decided we were ready to vote or not on 3-9, we could always push that to our next meeting. But so this item has sort of changed things in our agreement, even though we did approve the process 6-1 on last Tuesday. So that's sort of where we're at, but we know for sure that the community forum is happening. And of course that's open to everyone, but with those, sort of boundaries and parameters put in place in terms of participation, we might send out a Google form to sort of get an idea of who wants to participate so that we can just have an idea of how many numbers we're going to get, on the Zoom call. And of course, this will be public and WCAT will host it live as well. So that was maybe a lot and all over the place, and I apologize for that, but that's kind of like where my head is right now. So if anyone has any questions or if I can clarify any of those things that I just said. Benny?
I have a question. Yeah. Can you so what was the timeline that was originally laid out in the decision that you approved last week?
So our timeline was first that we would approve the process, obviously, which was, and to make note, like there was an amendment there was a motion for an amendment of that process on Tuesday as well. The amendment spoke to this ballot, which we voted on 4-3, and it didn't pass. So it's sort of the same issue, right? But it actually moved forward. So just to clarify that. And then the next thing was the community forum as described on 225. And then after that, we hoped to present data and just present feedback from the community forum from all of the communication that we've received thus far, or up until that point, whether it be email or phone calls or whatever, all of the things that we've received, and kind of compile that together, present that, and hope to make a vote on our 3-9 meeting. But again, if we felt we weren't ready, after having sort of listened to the panel, hopefully we could maybe make a motion to move that to the next meeting. So that was what we approved on Tuesday, Benny.
And then the situation with the townwide referendum is that election date is not until after.
Yes, the election is 4/27.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Great. Maureen, I saw you had your hand up.
That was from before. No, supporting everything Colleen said. That I was notified that any 10 people can have a non-binding question on the townwide ballot, and that they got enough signatures and they got it in. I've not seen our agenda for our Monday meeting, so I don't want to say what's on the agenda or anything like that, but it's assuming it'll come in front of us on Monday, and it's a procedural vote. It's I haven't seen the wording of the the ballot question.
Yeah, Maureen, I forgot to mention that it's really important to understand that it is a non-binding question, because I think when people go to vote on anything, they may misunderstand sort of where that leads to, right? And it's important, and that was a part of our discussion on Tuesday. That it's non-binding, it's informational. How many avenues do we go down to collect information? And we all have opinions on that. So when I did talk to Anne, she did share with me, and I hope it's okay to share this, Mary, that it's important to understand sort of where the authority lies right now, and for you all in our community to understand that it ends up being a school committee decision right now. Thus far, I've talked with Tom Mullen and I've got guidance from him, just sort of at what point does it not become a school committee decision? And that's sort of many steps, you know, so we're not there. So
Thank you, Colleen, so much for the update and for the endless hours that you are spending on this. Yeah, it's overwhelming. And and like I said at the school committee meeting the other night, your job was already hard before this came up. So I really, really appreciate all the work that you've done on it. So now that we have kind of a clearer picture in terms of what the process is going forward, I have kind of a two-part question for everyone, which is, or I guess before I ask the questions, let me just go back a little bit and explain to everyone. So this is a topic that has come up several times for the Human Rights Commission. And when about a year ago at our February meeting last year, we had this had come up in meetings leading up to last February's meeting, all around the Massachusetts Indigenous legislative agenda, which was comprised of 5 bills that all had to do with Indigenous rights, changing the state seal and flag, a ban on Native American imagery for use of mascots, logos, anything for schools. It was education around Native American children. It was bringing more Native American history into the curriculum. There's one more that I'm leaving out and I apologize. So Benny had done a lot of research around that, and we had voted in support of that legislative agenda. Now that was obviously a largely different board a year ago. We have 6 new members than we had, 6 different members than we had at this time last year. So my questions, and I would love to hear from Benny in terms of just to kind of give an overview of kind of the research that she had done that led us to that vote. But as you're listening to her, my 2 questions are, first, do we, now that this has become a community conversation, do we want to speak out at the forum as a group? Prior to this, we had really deferred to, this remains a school committee decision. We have no impact on the decision. We have no say in the decision, and we also, the youth council, we defer to them and their process because they've done an outstanding job of educating themselves and educating the community. And we didn't want to interfere with that. Now that this has gone beyond, again, we still don't get to make the decision, but now that this is broadened to the whole community, and there is this opportunity for the community to be heard at the forum, do we want to speak out as a group? And if we do, does that mean talking about how we endorse the legislative agenda? And if we don't, we can talk about kind of what it looks like from beyond that. So Benny, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the research that you learned? And then we'll, thank you, Jen. In the chat, she had put up the 5 bills under the Massachusetts Indigenous legislative agenda. But go ahead, Benny.
Well, so the research that I had done was not about the legislative agenda, but was about the mascot
okay, sorry.
in particular, Native mascots and logos. Do you want me to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah.
So I had done like a little bit of research, combing through like online news articles, like town papers and stuff that have had articles and stuff like that, to try to piece together an understanding of what towns and school districts in Massachusetts have already gone through this process. And what were the outcomes? You know, was the mascot changed? Was it not changed? Was the, you know, name of the team changed? Was it not changed? What were the processes that these different towns and school committees went through, you know, to try to get an understanding of what might happen in Wakefield, or what might be like an appropriate place for us to sort of exist in that process. So the actual research, the most instructive part of the research I found was actually talking to people on school committees in towns where this had already taken place. And the one school committee that I was able to have like the most sort of like extensive conversation was with this school committee in Western Mass, the Mohawk, what is it called? Mohawk Trail Regional High School. So it's a regional school district. And they, in 2019, voted to keep they are also Warriors. They voted to keep the name the Warriors, but to change the native logo and also to repaint like a big painting. What do you call it? Mural. So that was a helpful conversation just because it had happened fairly recently, and it kind of helped me to understand this question about the distinction between like, what is a town decision? What happens with, because they also had, they cover something like 5 towns or more. It's like a bunch of different towns that are covered by the school district. So there were referendums in several of those towns. And like, what does the referendum mean to the process? What does the open community forum mean to the process? How do you think about these different pieces, then ultimately culminating in a school committee vote? So I don't know that I need to go into detail about their actual process, but it sounds like it's going to be like fairly similar to ours, the process that the school committee voted on last week. Let's see. So that's the one district that I really got like detailed information about how they went about the process. But there's been in the past, the school districts that I was able to find, there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 18 school districts that I was able to find documentation of them having like gone through some version of this process. And of those 18, 14 of them changed their either logo, mascot, or name, or both. 3 specifically like did not choose to change their native mascot. And 1 at the time that I did this research still was like they had like a working group examining the issue. Actually, and there's another one that happened since then. What do you call it?
Winchester?
Winchester, thank you. Winchester, I think, is a really great example because they changed theirs. They changed the sachems during COVID. Like this happened, it was a totally COVID era process that happened, which included a whole bunch of student, like youth organizing. The youth had like a group that they had formed together around this issue. They did like community organizing around the issue that was like largely youth driven. They had like really, and that was a process that was supported by the Network for Social Justice, which is a nonprofit in Winchester that does social justice-y stuff. They're not a HRC, they're like not a town body, but kind of, I think, evolved out of a similar place as an HRC. Anyway, so those are some thoughts that I have. I don't know. Is there anything like more helpful that I could be saying? Those are some things that I learned.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. Thank you, Benny. So yeah, after we had endorsed this agenda last year, we had decided that we would take an approach of educating the community, and then COVID happened, and it just kind of all it got a little derailed. So I don't know if people, what people think about the approach of, if we endorse the agenda, then that means including the bill to ban Native American imagery, and we take it from that approach, that if we were to present at a forum, we discuss it from that angle, or if I'm really curious to hear people's thoughts as to if we want to speak out, and if we do, how do we want to do it?
Can I clarify? We wouldn't be So I know, Colleen, you mentioned having a panel discussion. That wouldn't be us on the panel. It would just be if we were going to make a statement when the public was making statements. Is that accurate?
Well, I was just thinking, Jen, as Benny and Marie were talking, that we haven't compromised, we haven't put together the panel yet. We have some, we're talking to a few different tribal nation leaders, representatives from other Native American groups. Also, because of our connection to the local family, there's actually divisiveness in that perspective as well. So we would like to represent all of that. And we also thought that we'd like to represent sort of the voice of community members. And so I was just thinking that I would maybe ask if we could have you present during the panel discussion rather than, well, it's up to you, right? But I would have to sort of go back to the subcommittee to ask if that's an appropriate place. So if we were going to have representatives from community groups, obviously it seems natural that the HRC be one of them. And then, we'd have to have another group represented, or a few others. So we did talk about that discussion being like not brief, but an hour, start to finish, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, to keep it structured and to keep us moving along with our other meeting agenda items. So I guess that would be up to you, but if you want me to ask if it's an appropriate place for sort of your recommendation to be heard on that panel, I can ask that, and then you could sort of make the decision where you best fit.
One logistical thing is that we don't meet again until after the next forum, or after the panel discussion is supposed to take place.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I think first we need to figure out if the majority of the commission feels comfortable doing that. And then if we do, can we vote on if the school committee agrees to extend an invitation to us to be on the panel? Could we vote on yes or no? We would do that. Could we do that tonight? Is that procedurally, is that something, Colleen and Maureen, is that something that we can do?
You can make a motion for that, right?
All right.
And then, yeah, because like you said, you're not meeting again. So this would really be the only opportunity for you to make that motion, right?
Right.
And then, and if that opportunity is then available, then you know how you voted. So.
Yeah,
I was just
before we
thinking-
make that motion.
sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say before we make a motion, I want to make sure that I'm hearing everyone's thoughts on this. So go ahead, Nicole.
I was just gonna say, I think, my opinion, I think that we, more than being on the panel, is just making a statement and making our position heard, only because listening to Colleen and just bringing in various different experts in it, even though we're supposedly like the experts of like human rights, but we're not experts in this, for instance, and there's so much chatter around us, but I think we still, aside from the chatter, we still need to stand up for what we feel as a commission, and it should be on the record where we stand. I don't know if we need to have like a full on, this is this as a panel member. That's just my 2 cents.
I agree with Nicole that we need to have a position statement, but not necessarily serve on a panel.
Anyone else have thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I think we should have a position. Also, are we going to actually talk about what that position is?
Right. Yeah. Yes. I think we do need to talk about what that position is.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Nicole too, that I don't feel like I'm in a position to be an expert on a panel that's designed around strictly you know, like you're bringing in experts from the Native American tribes, the people who are involved in the political decisions and this kind of thing. Because I heard your discussion on the school committee the other night. I didn't tune in live, but I happened to watch it on Saturday night for like 3 hours while you guys were going back and forth. So I just don't feel like I agree. We should have a statement as a community like as a representative of the community in Wakefield, but we are by no means experts. And I think this goes back to what Elizabeth brings up often, that we don't want to put out there that we're an expert in someone's culture that we're not immersed in all the time. We are immersed in the Wakefield community, and we do have our own thoughts as parents and residents of the community. But again, there's a line where this goes beyond the school committee. So I think to be on that expert panel, I'm not comfortable with. If we decide as a body to have a unified statement, I'm okay with that, but I don't feel like I would support being on the panel.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
What I was going to offer in terms of if the school committee were to want us on a panel, that I think that where our expertise lies is in deferring to impacted groups, right? So what we as the HRC can speak to is that while we, like the conversation in Wakefield, right, that like a lot of the conversation that I'm hearing is on one side, here's one family that has a particular stake, and here is a larger collective recommendation that differs from that family's stake. And what we as the HRC can be experts on is deferring to the larger collective voice and saying that, yeah, individual voices can have a variety of opinions. And the reason that we reach toward groups of experts like, I can't remember what they're called, like the group that put together the Massachusetts Indigenous Agenda, or like our youth council, right? Because they're the youth who are speaking with expertise on this issue as people directly impacted in high school. We defer to those groups of people to tell us what they need collectively. That may have just been babbling.
Nope, it made sense.
Yeah.
Sherry, go ahead.
And I think in whatever we say, we should keep in mind and defer to our mission, which talks about dignity and respect. And I think that that is really where we have to come at this, that our mission is to promote anything that generates greater dignity and respect for all peoples. Don't know why the gold doesn't turn off after I mute myself again, but it stays on. I'm not talking anymore.
No, it's okay. It's all right. No, I just wanted to give everyone the space if they're collecting their thoughts, but they still want to speak. I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity.
So I'll say, if we're gonna go there, that the HRC's position, I would support the HRC's position being that the warrior logo should be removed. Or like, whatever, how you want to say that. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
I think that might be in the conclusion. We talk about values. And
that's
like I said,
fine.
our mission, and then in our
position
conclusion.
of the HRC should be, I think that's the position we should have. I agree with supporting that with our values. I'm just saying, I think we have to put a fine point on it. That is what we're, if that's what we want to do, I think we have to say that specifically.
Right.
Here in this meeting, I think we have to agree upon that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to be explicit. I think that having a vague statement is not useful.
Mm-hmm. Colleen, I do have one quick question. So is the debate, it's over the current logo, correct? Or is it over all the logo of the one that's on the front of the high school plus the one that's on the uniforms? Because I think everyone, like saying around town, everyone has the old logo, but that's not the one that we're using. The school committee doesn't even use that logo. So what, is it just a blanket for both?
So not really. When we get down to actually part of the motion that was approved sort of laid out what our options might be on the table for 3-9 or whenever that vote might take place. And that is retire the current logo. That is the front facing native imagery that you see.
The cartoon, right?
Right.
Okay.
And retire we call that the current logo.
Okay.
The other logo that you're referring to, the side facing logo with the headdress that seems to be linked back to Lenny Baird's and John Galvin's collaboration. We call that the original logo. So, and I know those are both being discussed, and I think some people are going back to the original logo because that may be seen as sort of less caustic than the front facing character, you know. So anyway, we know that we need to address all of that. So after we had the community forum, we know those sides are both going to be presented. So it's not just yes or no, it's also what version would be retired, or if one's retired, do we then adopt an original, or do we adopt a process, because then we have to have a process for a new logo, right? And also the name has come up because some people feel like names are linked to images, right? That doesn't seem to be as contentious as the logo is, but it's also something that we need to address. So this is like phase one, right? So then after we make those votes, and the vote can be, I would expect that when we finally do get to vote, that we may have 7 different school committee members proposing how we move forward, right? And we're going to vote on this. Well, now, okay, we voted on that. Now we're going to vote on this, and that's how I feel like it might move forward. And then depending on how it moves forward, then you sort of move to next phase of, in the case of retiring a logo, the phase of creating a new one, if that is the direction you go in. So does that answer your question, Nicole? Okay.
Yeah.
Maria, can I just add, as wearing my government affairs hat? So I'm just looking at the bills that Jen put in there, and I know a lot of us weren't here 2 years ago when we had the discussion about these 5 bills. They're all being refiled. They have to be filed by Friday's bill filing deadline, and I just we made progress on a little bit of them. The flag, Senator Lewis was just talking to the youth council last week and said that we are changing the state flag and seal. So actually those 5 bills are now 4 bills, which is kind of great that they got one passed. But I would urge you all to kind of find, I know we're not meeting again, but it would be great to kind of endorse those remaining bills, because I think they're very tied to the conversation we're having. And I think that's a good value statement of, we support these bills, and in these bills is one to remove Native American mascots, logos, nicknames. And I think that's goes to, conclusion made, as Benny kind of said, but I think we kind of, HRC voted kind of on supporting legislation, which is what we've done in the past. Other groups do that as well. And I think that's a first step before actually, deciding to be a panelist. But I think the more important thing is to say we as an HRC support these bills that have been refiled, and these are what the bills try to do statewide. And so obviously, like, would we support that in our local town?
And also the Native American logo, that bill has already been filed. I think that was filed last week. I don't know about the other ones, but yeah, okay, so just trying to kind of organize us. Does it make sense first to vote on whether or not to endorse the remaining bills that are on the Mass Indigenous legislative agenda? That is a mouthful. And then if we vote in support of that, then we vote in terms of submitting some sort of statement in the public forum, and we can we can discuss the point. I mean, all of you have raised already really good points. So just making a list of the points that we want to cover, and then either maybe one or two of us can draft a statement with those points in it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So I think, so my first question is, do we have a motion to endorse the Massachusetts Indigenous Legislative Agenda as it stands now with the 4 remaining bills? Nicole, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Oh.
Thank you. Okay. So going in order on my screen, Jeremy,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Benny.
Wait, yes.
Okay. Jen,
Yes.
Faith. I don't know if Faith is still with us.
She unmuted, but I don't think we can
Oh.
hear her. I saw her unmute.
Oh, okay. Faith, if for some reason you can't communicate, if you want to write your vote in the chat, that's totally fine. Sorry, my voice is fading. Kim? Okay, yes. And yes for myself. So that is endorsed unanimously.
And Faith put in the chat, yes.
Yep.
Yes, no worries, Faith. It's okay. Faith said yes. Okay. Okay. So then in terms of, I'm just trying to think of the right way, and if anybody wants to help me kind of word the motion with respect to submitting a statement from the HRC in the forum, in the public, in the community forum. Don't all talk at once.
I move that the HRC drafts a formal position statement to be included in the public forum. Is that a motion?
Sounds good.
I'll second that.
Great, Sherry. All right. All right, and taking a vote on that, Jeremy,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Faith.
Yes, in the chat.
Yep, I
Says
see
a
the
yes.
yes in the chat. Kim?
Yeah, I vote yes.
Okay, and I also vote yes. So that's also unanimous.
Would that position statement also be something we would submit elsewhere, like just post to our Facebook page or on our website or in the item or wherever else?
That's entirely up to us if we want to do that. I think, I mean, if we're going to say it at the community forum, then we're saying it to the community. So why not put it on our homepage and our Facebook page, and if we want to submit it to the item as well. Yep. Okay.
So in your opinion, I just want to know, so when we put this out for the community, are we going to do it after we make the statement on the 25th, or we're going to put it out before? And what is the best, I guess, the best course? And I guess Kimberly and Jen, who you guys work in media, because in my mind, I'm thinking that we make our statement on the 25th. So no one can say anything that we did something, and then from there we put our statement out. But that's just, I'm new to this, so I just am asking, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kim.
My thought is to make the statement on the 27th and then post it after. I just, from personal, just from being a part of so many different groups in Wakefield and everything, I just feel like the conversation is so loud right now, and it's so hard to break through the noise, that it almost makes sense to kind of follow the order that's being set in terms of statements and things like that. And kind of afterwards, this was our statement that we expressed, this was our position that we took, and that kind of thing. But that's my personal opinion, just as a publicist.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Maria, you mentioned earlier, and I know we're not going to draft this right now, although I don't know how we can come back together to like approve the language of it. If we're not meeting, we might need to set another meeting. I don't know. But you had asked about sort of themes that people had said, and I didn't say this earlier. So I think one of the, what Elizabeth was saying, like what we can do and what our expertise is to defer to those marginalized groups and what they're saying. But I think an important element was one that was brought up in the school committee meeting and that Tom Markham re-brought up, but it's also in the Mass Legislative Agenda website. And that's that, civil rights issues should not be decided in the court of public opinion. And I feel like, we can hear from lots of people in the community and individual opinions, but these are civil rights issues. And I think we need to speak with some authority on that.
I hugely agree with you. I think that that's like the central point, which is that this isn't
Right.
really a majority rules kind of an issue, because the majority of people are not native, right? And it is
Right.
appropriate. Like there are situations where I would be super pissed if my legislative official was going against the majority opinion, in the town. But there are situations where it's like necessary and appropriate for an elected official to go against the majority opinion. I don't even know if this is the majority opinion, but I'm just saying, if it is in, like you're saying, a civil rights issue, if it is protecting a minority of
Protected
people
class.
who are harmed, yeah. And I think that's a key issue, because I think, understandably, there's so much like feelings and anger about like, if there are so many people in favor of keeping the logo, why would you take it away? And I feel like that piece is that piece is like a little bit of a missing. It's not missing because it's been brought up already, but I would love to. I'm just saying, yes, I agree with you.
All right, yeah, thank you for that. I do think that's an essential an essential point to cover in the statement. So similar, I'm thinking about kind of the process that we went through in responding to like when we responded to the New Zealand attacks. We had authorized the chair and the vice chair to craft a statement around a particular kind of structure. If we discuss the points, the essential points that we want to cover in this, would everyone be okay with, we don't have a vice chair, so Benny is my secretary, not my secretary, as the secretary. Sorry, Benny is not my secretary. Benny as the secretary. Would everyone be okay with Benny and I kind of filling in the language around it, but making sure that we cover those essential points and we don't go beyond those essential points?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So making sure, just to cover, making sure that we cover everything. So we defer to marginalized groups. Civil rights should not be decided in the court of public opinion. Anything else that you would like to make sure that we express?
Can I ask just a question? And I'm just trying to, personally, I'm just trying to think of what opens the door to, because again, there's a big part of it is a misunderstanding. Like if you call out not in the court of public opinion, there could be people in the town who are like, but we're a town and we're a community, you know what I mean? So I'm just curious about if you just kind of stick to the sweet and point. We defer to the marginalized communities. We consult with a number of different people and we follow these practices. I'm just trying to think of the wording of, do you want to open that door where it's, but we're a town and it was never run by us, even if it was, that kind of thing, And that's it. It's up for discussion. I'm just throwing out there, seeing how people are speaking to one another and speaking so publicly on social media and things like that. Is it sometimes better just to be short and sweet? We defer to this is, and that kind of thing, and just leaving it at that.
I mean, we don't have to say, I get what you're saying, Kim, about like public, but I think we could still say like, this is a civil rights issue. We don't have to say they shouldn't be decided. We should just say, we believe this is a civil rights issue and
Right.
needs to have a higher standard of some, I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
we don't have to use that exact phrase that I had said, but I think we need to get to that point somehow, without, not without being disrespectful to the people who hold the other position either, right? So it's just, and I think something that we could say, and this is all just because I was drafting my own personal letter the other day. We understand that the intention is not to harm, right? Like the people who created this logo, and the people who want to keep it, their intent is not to harm, but we hear this evidence that it does. And so that's, I think, what we need to clarify too, that even though maybe individuals aren't harmed or feel offended, it is this ginormous body of Indigenous tribes and groups say that it is. And so we should defer to them.
I do think it is really important that we name it as an issue of civil rights. I don't, I agree, Ken, that the language of like, we don't decide this, right? I think like saying as a group, even as like, sure, this is a public meeting, but conversation is different from a statement, right? So we can say that in this group that like, yeah, we agree. This is not a thing we decide in the court of public opinion. And maybe that is not the language that we use in our statement, but that the sentiment, right, is there. I mean, we could have a whole big educational piece about how we're a representative democracy and we don't count literally every single person for every single thing, but that's not useful. But I do think it is really useful to name that this is an issue of civil rights. This is an issue of groups of people saying our voices are not being heard and we are being harmed. And that's a place where we can say that like, well, as a committee of the town, the privilege that we occupy in the committee of the town is that we can support that voice.
I think that's perfect.
And actually, it is our responsibility as for the nature of the body that we are. It is our responsibility to speak up.
Also great.
All right, Benny, do you feel like, or I guess asking the whole group, do you feel like we've covered the essential points that we want in the statement?
And I am putting on there that the HRC supports changing or getting rid of the logo.
Yeah.
Do we want to be more specific and not say the current logo, but any native, a logo that has any native imagery in it?
Yeah,
yes, I think that's good, Jennifer.
Do we need to take a position on the name warrior?
I'm not sure you need to take a position on that because I'm not sure that is necessarily like I don't know. I think warrior is much broader than that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be in that sort of second phase that Colleen mentioned. Yeah, I know it's going to come up, right? We already know it's going to come up, but I think you by backing the legislature that's out there and things like that. I mean, if that encompasses warrior down the road, then I think we would back it. But I'm not sure I'm ready to back removing warrior altogether at this point. But that's just my.
I'm not necessarily either. I just didn't know if we need to say like we support keeping the name warrior and changing the if we need to specify that or not.
I don't think we should even mention it here. We're addressing one issue, making a position statement on one issue that's coming before the public on that date, and we should stay with that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say that they want to include in the statement, or any other thoughts or anything like that?
We can always send you an email.
Yes, you can always, absolutely, yeah, this is, that you can absolutely do. I think the only thing that I would say is, once we do give this statement at the community forum and we put it on our Facebook page, I would just a word of caution in terms of, if you choose to engage with anyone over social media with regards to this, if you are speaking on behalf of the HRC, I would just ask that you stick to what is in the statement. And if you think that you might engage in the conversation beyond what is written in the statement, that you preface it as you're speaking from your own personal viewpoints and not from the viewpoints of the HRC.
Not only that, but even in our orientation, we
Right.
emphasize that we speak as one.
Right.
And we also don't say, well, I disagreed with any points of that statement.
Yep. Thank you.
We can submit our own
Yes.
letters and things with our own opinions.
Yes, whatever you want to do in terms of expressing your own opinions, as long as, there's not, there's no confusion in terms of if you're expressing your own versus the HRCs. Yep, thank you. Okay.
I don't think anyone who's actively on this body, though, should be expressing opinions counter to our statement.
Right.
Because we're still officials of this body.
All right. Okay, deep breath. Just moving on to the last couple things. Networking with the other HRCs, I'm going to push that off till next month, because I only preliminarily started reaching out to a few and haven't gotten very far. So that's my update. The same with the electronic storage. I'm still at the beginning of kind of exploring what that looks like. So that is still a work in process.
Maria.
Yep.
You want, do you want me to help you and reach out to the Stoneham one? Have you reached out to Stoneham at all yet?
I haven't reached out to them yet. No, that would be great.
I can help you with that one, because one of my best friends is the one that approached me from Stoneham. So let me help you with that. So
That would be fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. And then one thing that I guess moving to matters not anticipated, Sherry Dalton had just asked me to pass along the request to all of you that any and all reimbursement requests be submitted via email only, just because she's not, sometimes she's working remotely, sometimes she's at town hall. So if you could submit reimbursements via email, if that's not possible, if you need help with that, let me know and I can help. But yeah, that was the other.
I triggered that because I dropped copies of a receipt and a letter of request in the mailbox.
All right,
I
she
just
didn't
did
mention
that.
any names. She just but yeah, just for future reference. Yep, it's all good. Does anybody else have any other matters not anticipated? Okay, Benny, do you want to go over that action list?
Yes. Okay, the action list includes Maria's going to add the language around like agenda and meetings and the minutes and that whole process, going to add that language into the policies and procedures and then send that newly updated document out to the rest of us. Kim is going to write the press release about the active bystander training, and we'll, be in contact with those of us who attended to get some information about how the training was and things like that. And Jen is going to reach out to some friends who attended to get quotes from them about the experience. Let's see. Maria and Nicole are going to connect with Jen about posting something on Facebook about the Black History Month readings. And Maria and I are going to write the position statement about the Warrior logo, and Jeremy is going to contact the person he knows at the Stoneham HRC. And those are all the things that I have. Am I missing things?
I don't think so. I think that was everything.
Sounds good.
All right. So finally, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Sherry, do I have a second?
Seconded.
Everyone just wants to hang out. Sorry, I didn't see it. Jeremy has a second. All right. Going in order on my screen. Jeremy. Yes. Okay. Sherry.
Yes.
Nicole.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
Benny.
Yes.
Jen.
Yes.
Faith.
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
And yes for myself. So, all right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night, and we'll be in touch.
Good night. Be well.
Thanks, everyone.